Ninja Gaiden Sigma. Oh boy, I am a huge fan of this game and every iteration it's ever had. Starting at Xbox, the original Xbox, with that big old fat Duke controller, the original Ninja Gaiden. We won't say original actually, because the original is a side scroller and it's a bit different, was a crazy hard action game. And for me, it was what kind of ignited my love for extremely hard, challenging action games in the first place. This game had an absolute chokehold on me when I rented it from good old Blockbuster way back in the day, which I believe I even rented multiple times just to be able to do everything in it. But over the years, it had multiple different versions that I absolutely adored. After the original one, the Ninja Gaiden Black version of it came out, and this one was way harder, had more enemies, and was just crazy high octane action and just more of the same great game that I want to play again. And even iterating on that, Ninja Gaiden Sigma, which I'll be talking about today, was, in my opinion, still an improvement on the first two iterations of Ninja Gaiden. I have ended up playing this on just about everything it has landed on. The original Xbox for the first one and Black, and then on PlayStation 3, Ninja Gaiden Sigma released, and I even beat it again on the PlayStation Vita, which was one of my favorite just because, hey, we had one of my favorite games on the go, aside from the fact that the Vita is one of the best handhelds ever. And no, I will not be elaborating. But this game is one that I feel any action fan should be playing, especially with Ninja Gaiden 4 being released right around the corner. In these, we follow our protagonist, Ryu, as he is going after the thief and murderer of his clan who stole the legendary dragon sword from his village. The overall story of Ninja Gaiden is about as simple as the premise, but it does enough to be memorable, to be enjoyable, and to carry you through a ton of different areas throughout the game. And it even ends with a pretty climactic boss fight. And that to me is more than enough when it comes to story, especially with the character designs, the choreography and presentation of its cutscenes, and the pacing at which it's all given to you. This is especially true for Ninja Gaiden Sigma, as Sigma brought in a new playable character, Rachel, with her own side story to go through and own new bosses to battle, which further fleshed out some of the more skipped over parts of the original story where I personally wished in the previous iterations that they had concentrated a little bit more on, such as Rachel and the relationship between her and her sister. For me, Sigma really cemented the actual story of this game as one worth really continuing to build on in future titles, which they did do. Now, on the flip side, with the combat, game content, and things like that, that's where things get a little bit more muddy between Black and Sigma, as more hardcore fans of the series do prefer Ninja Gaiden Black because it had more puzzles, costumes, and you could unlock more of the classic games through different means in the game. Whereas in Sigma, you did have the new playable character, you had new weapons with the dual katanas, and a big, in my opinion, which it felt big at the time and still kind of looks big when you compare the two, graphical update, but at that cost of not having some of those puzzles, unlockable classic games, and a slightly different enemy balance, which made it a little more forgiving than Ninja Gaiden Black. It also introduced using items more quickly without having to go into your menu to use them, which doesn't feel like a big change, but in the flow of combat, it really does improve the experience by not having you in your pause menu, breaking up the pace of combat. And on top of all of those positives, it is the most accessible of all the versions, being included in the Master Collection that is basically available on every platform at this point. But honestly, regardless of whatever version you are going to go with, This is a fast-paced game. It is unforgiving at times and will have you rage smashing your controller trying to figure out how to get past a certain boss at some points. And over the course of the game, there are harder and harder enemies until it culminates in a finale that is quite punishing and honestly, for me, was more challenging even just before the finale with some of the ghost enemies and things like that that can really just eat your health bar down in just a few seconds. This to me is where game difficulty really spiked back when, and where a lot of things like inspiration for difficulty and things like Elden Ring and Dark Souls and whatever else you want to just name off that's super hard really came from. Because for me, this is the one that stands out the most as like the first game that was like, dang man, this game is punishing and will punish you for not getting in tune with its mechanics. You can have any number of different weapons in this game, from the swords to nunchucks. But no matter what you want to use, you want to master that weapon. You want to get good, know that move set, and you want to be able to use that against every enemy. And almost just as important as your fighting skills themselves is your mastery over its movement in the game itself. As you can wall run, you can swing on beams, you can jump off of walls into enemies for surprise attacks. You can do a lot in this game, and your survival and getting through it pretty much hinges on the fact that you learn how these mechanics work. It's truly almost a perfect game when it comes to how you play it. That's why I always end up returning to it. That's why it still stands as one of my favorite games of all time, and why I've played it over every other title in the series the most. And while it may be obvious when you say, hey, start with the first one, this is one of those series where you really could start at any title and probably have a good time. But the first Ninja Gaiden, which, this one, not the original side scroller, we'll clarify again, is just so perfect and needs to be played by any action fan. Thanks so much for stopping by and listening to me gush about Ninja Gaiden Sigma. It's one of my favorite games ever, and I do plan on revisiting the other titles in the series, especially the new release of Black for Ninja Gaiden 2, which I did not get into very much because there was a lot going on, and the looming release of Ninja Gaiden 4 has me super hyped for the series' big return. Even though we've had a smaller title recently with Ninja Gaiden Ragebound, of which I did review and talk about on the channel, I will leave a link to that video in the description or at the end of the video. I am happy to be getting back to a full mainline entry of the Ninja Gaiden series. So, what do you guys think is the best in the series, and how hyped are you for the release of Ninja Gaiden 4? Go ahead and start a conversation in the comments. I would love to have one. As always, you can subscribe to the channel to hear more from me. I upload videos of just video games I love, both old and new. And like this video if you really enjoyed me talking about Ninja Gaiden. And hopefully I'll see you guys in the future when I am talking about Ninja Gaiden 4. But until then, peace.